Another math video, Math Magic with Jen. We're doing some more integers today. So if you watched my first video on integers that introduced number lines and opposites and scale, we're going to keep going. This time we're going to look at some applications, some involving money. There's a sports example. I think there's a hiking one. We're going to check it out right now. So we'll see what you like. Okay. So first off, recall that integers refer to all positive whole numbers. They're negative and zero. So we're going to continue looking at them. We're going to keep going with number lines because that's what the Common Core textbook really likes to do to visualize what's going on. So we're going to stick with it. But I'm going to also focus on the importance of language. There's certain words that refer to positive numbers while others relate to negative. And I don't even mean like about connotation about somebody being happy and positive versus being negative and sad. This is just literally a positive amount versus a negative amount. Okay, so let's go ahead and try out this first example that has to do with money. Now, this is straight up from the Common Core textbook, and it's wordy. So bear with me as I read this to you guys. So for Tim's 13th birthday, he received $150 in cash from his mom. His dad took him to the bank to open a savings account. The banker credited Tim's new account $150. 1 week later, Tim deposited another $25. The next month, Tim withdrew $35 to purchase a video game. He charged a fee of $5 to take out the money. How much money is in Tim's account? Before we go solve how much money is in Tim's account, which I have a nice little number line in just a second, we want to talk about some of those key words. So received, okay. So received means that you have been given. So you now have a positive $150. Okay. Now that same amount is also mentioned again where it's credited. So Tim did not get $300 magically, right? It's that same 150, but there are two different words that are referring to that positive 150. So again, just kind of making sure that students know credited means the same as you now have a positive $150. Okay, keep going. It talks about that Tim deposited. So deposited again would be you have $25 that is going into that account. So you have 25 more dollars in that account. Withdrew means that the $35 is leaving your account. And to be technical, he's spending it. So you could also talk about withdrawing or withdrew, and spending or spent. You still are, that money's going away. And then we can have a whole discussion about banks and fees. But whether you agree with it or not, in this scenario, the bank is charging a fee of $5. So having to understand that that would be $5 leaving the account. Okay. So again, focusing on language for a money problem. Received, credited, deposited are all positives. Withdrew, spent, charged are all negative numbers. Okay. Now let's talk about how we would solve how much money's in Tim's account. So they do focus on number lines, whether you like it or not. So what I tried to do here, obviously you can see I didn't start at zero. So I started with his initial deposit of $150. So that's where I'm focusing. It's like I'm zooming in on that part of the number line. Okay. We could have gone every 10, every 20, every 25. I thought it might be a little bit cleaner to look at it every 5. So that's what I have here. So you can see that this is Tim's initial amount that he received from his mom and got deposited into a bank. Then he had another $25 that also got deposited. So here we have 150. If I add 25, we are landing at 175. Okay. So positives, any positives are going to go to the right. Anything that is leaving the account is going to go to the left. So here, you didn't have to do it above and below. I just thought it'd be a little bit cleaner if you saw me jump backwards below. So here is that 35 that he's withdrawing to buy that video game, and then that $5 of the fee that he has to pay for withdrawing that money. Okay. So when all's said and done, where we land at the end of this is how much money he has. So this is our final amount. So at the end of this story, Tim has $135. Now, you could stop and see how much Tim had at any point in the story. So you could do, hey, how much did Tim have after he deposited 25 bucks? Okay, we're at 175. Okay, how much does Tim have after he took out 35? Okay, 140. Oh, but then we lost another five for the fee. So, I mean, you could stop it anywhere. You could also add to the story, okay? Or create your own. All right. Now, here's a direction example that's also from the Common Core textbook. It says Jesse and family drove up to a picnic area on a mountain. In the morning, they followed a trail that led to the mountain summit, which was 2,000 feet above the picnic area. They then returned to the picnic area for lunch, and after lunch, they hiked on a trail that led to the mountain overlook, which was 3,500 feet below the picnic area. They like to hike, man. Hope that they were safe and good and having a good old time. It says locate and label the elevation of the mountain summit and mountain overlook on a vertical number line. The picnic area represents 0. Because if they didn't tell us the starting elevation of the picnic area, like if they didn't tell us that it was already at 2,000 feet or, whatever it was, we can't really answer this question. So what we're going to do is we're going to call the picnic area 0. Okay, now we could put it in the middle of the graph. We could put it up a little bit higher. We could go anywhere we want, but I'm going to put 0. And right to the side, I'm going to say this is our picnic area. Okay. Now, I'm going to attempt to go every 500. So this would be 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000. And then we'll have negative 500, negative 1,000, negative 1,500, negative 2,000, and that's a giant bummer. So maybe I should have started the 0 up a little bit higher, but I think either way I'd still be in trouble. I'm going to have to do a negative 2,500. We'll throw on a negative 3,000 and a negative 3,000. Now, I already know that's what I want, but what we could have students do is just go 2,000 and negative 2,000, and then they could add as necessary. So this right here that they're adding, they may have to do after the fact. Okay. So here at 2,000 feet above the picnic area, so if picnic is 0, here is my summit. Okay. And then after lunch, they went to a trail with another overlook, which was 3,500 feet below or 3,500 feet below. So this is, as I said, if we only went to negative 2,000, then we'd have to adjust and keep going till I got to that negative 3,500. And that's the overlook. Okay, cool. Now it says, what is the distance between the elevations of the summit and the overlook? So they want to know what's the total distance here. Not the total distance that Jessie and her family hiked, because that would have been up and down again, but just what's the distance between these two? So from 0 to the summit, so this is 2,000. And then this distance is a distance of 3,500. And when we're talking about how far we've traveled, if you think about it, you're exerting energy. It's a positive number. Whether you're walking uphill or downhill, you are still doing that energy and doing that activity. So the distance traveled is always just a positive. So here, the difference between these would be 5,500 feet. So yes, this is technically a negative 3,500, but we're talking about just the distance. Like if we were to measure the distance as a positive number, what is that distance? It's also referred to as absolute value. When you take a distance and just take it as it's positive, that is also called absolute value. Okay. Sports. Let's talk about a sports example. It's football season right now when I'm making this video. So what we've got is we've got four consecutive plays for on offense for football. And it says that we have a catch for 11 yards, a false start for a penalty of 5 yards, a running back rushed for a gain of 7 yards, and then a quarterback was sacked for a loss of 8 yards. Now, even if you have students, whether you're talking about boys or girls, it doesn't really matter. You have fans of both genders that are interested in football or not interested. But let's talk about which words mean a positive versus which words mean a negative. So a catch for 11 yards is going to be a positive. So it may not seem like a positive number, but we want to make sure that students understand that someone threw the ball and caught it and they had a gain or a catch of 11 yards. Okay. A penalty means that you are losing those yards. So this would be a -5. So penalties -5. Okay. A gain of 7 is a positive. So gain is positive. And then a loss of 8, a loss is a negative. Okay. Now, when I went to go create this picture on a number line, I wanted to go in order. I wanted to go up 11, back 5, up 7, back 8. It was just really confusing on one giant graph to do that. It had so many different arrows. So what I decided to do instead is to look at it as a whole, as all the positives and all the negatives to see where we started from. So this is allowed to do, and in my next video, we're going to add integers. But basically, addition is commutative. You can switch the order. And so I want to do all the positives together and all the negatives together. And since I'm starting with a positive 11, that's why I started at 0 and went positive 11 and then positive 7, which means that this team went a positive 18 total. And then -5 and -8, it ended up landing us here. But what ends up happening is a -5 and a -8. We can talk about that as a -13. So we went forward 18, back 13. That net is that they ended up being overall more positive. So they had 5 more positive yards than negative. So the total yards of the 4 plays are going to be positive, and it was a net of a positive 5 yards. Net means that when I take all those positives and negatives together, did I end up more positive or did I end up more negative? Okay. Now, what you could also do for those that are sports fans is that you could really kind of do sort of like a time lapse number line. So we could have maybe just done the first 2 plays and then start again for the next one. So for the first 2, it could have been a positive 11 and then going back for 5. And 11 -5 would end up being 6. Okay. Then what we could do is we could do the next set starting then at the number 6. So if I start now where I ended up before, which was a positive 6, okay, then I'm going to go forward 7 and then back 8. So I just wanted to give you some options of you can do all of them, but I think I would probably separate it in pairs because to have it keep going forward and backwards, it gets kind of overwhelming to do all these alternating positive jumps and negative jumps. So you could break it down into two graphs. You could do just one giant graph with all positives or all negatives. See what you like. All right. That's my applications for today. So we looked at money. We looked at elevation above and below, and then we looked at a sports example. So there are so many out there that have just interesting examples and languages that relate to positive and negative values. So explore, see what's out there, and I hope that you enjoyed this one. Until next time, have a wonderful time working on your math, especially helping others, and I hope everything goes great. Till next time. Bye bye.